Hey Jeff, I do want to ask you when we're talking about Wrestlepalooza, did you get a chance to see the rest of the show? What'd you think?
Highlights, Conrad. We won't get into it because we've kind of mentioned it, but the folks that really follow hardcore into my world, they know about my son Cody and homecoming Saturday night, Connie. So when we got done with the all out post show that we did, I was all knee deep into Cody and homecoming and his jacket and his date and all that. But I followed it along on highlights. What do you got, bud? Because I did quite a bit. I was all over social media Saturday night, ins and outs, because we were in cars and back and forth and all that kind of stuff. So what why do you ask, sir?
Well, because ESPN, who obviously carried the show on ESPN Unlimited, which I was able to sign up for. My experience this past weekend was, hey, I have the ESPN app and I have Hulu, but I didn't have Disney Plus. And when I tried to click on the match, it directed me to a bundle. So I used a QR code and it pitched me a bundle. Because I already had Hulu, the offer was like $38.99. So I signed up with a different email address, my new email address, and I got the bundle for $29.99. So I went back and found my Hulu, which is $18.99, and I canceled it. So I no longer have a standalone Hulu subscription. I've got the new bundle with Disney Plus, ESPN Unlimited, and Hulu, and it was $29.99 a month. So I signed up, and I guess my net effect, because I was already paying for Hulu, is like $12 a month. So I was like, hey, this isn't too bad. Let's do it. I thought the video and the production looked fantastic, but the opening match, because they started strong, they started with Brock Lesnar and John Cena, I don't think went the way you expected. I think when we spoke last week, and I don't remember if it was on air or off air, you thought, hey, they're gonna put John Cena over. That was not the case. What would you have done if you had the opportunity to book that match?
Well, I look again, and this is where I really, you talked about doubling down early. I always double down when you talk about creative on this one statement. And I believe it because I've lived every side of it since before I had my first match. I was in the peripheral of it. Creative is subjective. And when you're not completely aware of the entire deck you're playing with, and the entire deck is not only your roster, but your big shows and commitments and maybe injuries. And then it gets into personal lives and agenda and contracted dates. And now you've got in rights fees and host fees and all this kind of stuff. It really never even crossed my mind. And that's why it's subjective that, oh, you know what? We've got Brock Cena and we've got to figure out, and Cena might have told a birdie, I really want Brock as my last match. If there's one guy that I've really faced through the years that I think will be a big money match and people are going to call without question that I'm going to win my last match, whatever the drama, and that's why you can get intricately in it. I just assumed that they turned Cena babyface and he's going to finish out this year. I'm still under the impression that his all intents and purposes, he really is retiring in December. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's just not. And this has been a storyline for a year and they'll extend it. I mean, Terry Funk, among many others, had all kinds of retirement matches and kept going. But I don't know. But that being said, I just thought Cena was going to go over. I also thought when I heard the news that they're starting the show, obviously direct opposite of, or approximately going to be directly opposed to the all-out main event, that, okay, Cena, Brock are going to come through, and then there it is. You got Cena over, and we go on with the show, and they're going to leave with the cliffhanger with Punk and Seth and all that, or whatever it may be. But putting Brock over super strong, the return match is on the way. When's it going to happen, Conrad?
Well, I mean, you got to think, like you said, it might be the last match, which, we'll see if he can win him, or get that win in his last match. I don't know if that's what I would do, but it will be interesting. I say I'm not sure if that's what I would do because, well, let's be honest. Brock Lesnar is not exactly a spring chicken. Now, don't get me wrong, he looked unbeatable. He looked like the beast incarnate or whatever you want to call it. And I love that they put him and Heyman back together. Heyman clearly undefeated as a master politician in all-time wrestling, but like we already did this with the Undertaker streak. Like, how much more equity do we need in Brock Lesnar when we know he's on the downhill? It feels like to me, you might use that for a younger up and comer. Am I wrong on that?
Well, it's why it's subjective. I mean, it really, I could, if I was your defense attorney, there's no doubt, or prosecuting attorney, there's no doubt I could give arguments both ways. What we really don't know is Brock's term and dates, and maybe an ESPN request, and where does ESPN executives, they may say, hey man, we really want Brock on this, and this. And so then creatively, you've got to pivot and kind of make these decisions. I hear what you're saying. But in this day and age, I think more so now than ever. And look, 35 years ago, Conrad, the old man or Lawler, hey man, great TV on Saturday morning. Yep. After next week, we're going to have to step up to the plate again because you're only as good as your last TV. So let's see what happens moving forward. I mean, even the next few Raws and SmackDowns, where they're going with it. But I hear you loud and clear. I'm going to go back to, this is a Cena story. What's it going to make? Cena did the massive job, but the massive sell job to prepare for what? And I think that's what all the questions that me and you, Conrad, and many, many others just don't know. Let's see how it develops. But nobody called that. And what I thought was, this morning at the gym, my buddy goes, hey man, did you see on College Game Day that before they're even doing the game picks, they did wrestling picks? And he said to me, he said, damn, if that ain't mainstream, nothing is.
Yeah, listen, it was a home run opportunity from a marketing perspective. But I will say, I think some of the diehard WWE fans, respectfully, they were, to say the least, nonplussed.
Yeah.
And chief amongst them was Andreas Hale, friend of the show, who I met years ago through Sporting News. I mean, probably back in like 2017.
Good writer. Good writer.
And a great dude. I mean, just I know he's taking some heat right now, but I'm getting to why he's taking some heat. He works for ESPN, and it is his job to cover wrestling. And he gave the show, the debut on ESPN, a C.
Ooh.
And so I'm wondering politically how that is going to be received by the people who are flying on that jet to Monday Night Raw as we speak right now. And as you know, it is a topic of conversation. Did you see this shit? Our own partner, blah, blah, blah.
That's
why he's an objective journalist. What do you make about a guy like, I know this is a different time and place. It's not the same thing, but imagine if for whatever reason, Spike had a columnist and they were trying to promote things on their website or what have you, and keep people engaged. And that guy gave a TNA debut a C. How would Dixie have received that information, do you think?
So, are you kidding me? Because that is like, we all have kind of sore spots. And Conrad, you have so carefully smacked me in the face since we started this podcast and said, Jeff, what if, how would your career look different if you would have curried just a little favor with the critics? And I think in a lot of ways, and I get a lot from the old man, but I always had it in my mind, they're doing their job. If they love us, great. If they hate us, great. We've got to do what's best for business. And then you kind of hear the kind of, Dixie, because she comes from the PR world, she would have flipped. She would have gone absolutely ballistic the first second she read it. But that's the world. So I don't make too much of it. I think one of the things that's interesting, and Conrad, help me out here. Is it true that when they signed the deal, ESPN took off all AEW reporting? They no longer report. And so
There was an AEW tab on the website, and there's not anymore. I can't say that they've not covered anything since. I don't know the answer to that, but I know there was a tab, and now there's not.
Yeah, and so that's where church and state. You're going to get into all of it, and so him giving it a C, I hadn't read it, so but I know online people weren't enamored with the show before or after. Look, you can't put it all on him.
Well, and let's expand on that, because I think this is interesting too. I think we're all a victim of creating unrealistic expectations.
Bingo.
So this is a show that respectfully was not for us, the hardcores who watch WWE all the time. This was to hopefully introduce the program and the content and the characters to a new audience. And I think this happened for us last year with Saturday night's main event. So many of us diehards, Jeff, were disappointed because there weren't enough surprises, or there wasn't enough storyline progression, or whatever you want to call it. And certainly we had some neat things, like Chelsea Green won a title and all that. And we saw Stephanie win a title over the weekend. And we even saw Stephanie McMahon go in the Hall of Fame. More on that in a minute. But I feel like this was a way to introduce the program and the content and the characters to non-fans, or maybe lapsed fans. The hardcores were maybe taken a little for granted here, but I kind of expected that. But I will say that fans were so jazzed up about this being one of the greatest days in wrestling history that whenever you set an expectation that high, it's almost impossible to meet the mark, isn't it, Jeff?
Well, it is certainly the world we live in, because there ain't a Super Bowl that's been played. Maybe the Brady big comeback on Atlanta. I mean, there's very few Super Bowls that live up to the hype. It's just impossible, because you talk for weeks upon weeks, and it's the culmination of the entire season. And these are to be the best two teams. And a lot of times you get blowouts and you're like, what? But, or a big movie, a big block. It's so hard. Oh man. Conrad, we are in an interesting time, because the old deal, careful what you wish for, in so many ways, ESPN, Netflix, Paramount is got it, obviously getting in the game over there, in that boatloads of money are coming in and all this. But at the end of the day, where's it all kind of going to settle? And when you have, and some of these My World listeners won't even know who Desmond Howard and Kurt Herbstreit and some of those reporters picking those games, and I'm using all that because it is, I'm saying what you're saying, a whole new audience. But at the end of the day, who are you servicing? Like, what were they trying? And I think you're touching on this, but let me ask you, Conrad, on Wrestlepalooza, what was their mission statement, if you will, to deliver a show to the mass? Well, every show's to the masses.
I don't think they just wanted the hardcores to watch, because respectfully, the hardcores were going to watch either way. I think they were doing all of that coverage on the football game and First Take and Stephen A. and all these other media presses that they did. I mean, this is the most media they've done for a show this year, besides WrestleMania, all year.
Oh,
more than Rumble, more than SummerSlam. And respectfully, when guys go on the Tonight Show or they go on these ESPN shows and they're doing mainstream publicity and press, they're not doing it hoping that the people who are watching this podcast will watch. They already know we're watching. They've got to expand to new people, which is why I think we had things like, we're going to have The Undertaker come out and ride his motorcycle around. Like, they didn't have to do that for the hardcores. They did that for the masses, if that makes sense.
I'm with you. And yeah, and that's why when you kind of, you hit those highlights, but at the end of the day, it's what we do. We're talking wrestling.
Sure.
We're over talking it, but that's kind of what we do, and overthinking it, but maybe not. I think at the end of the day, Nick Khan and team signed the deal with lots of zeros. They have a new master, if you will. Netflix is a master now. ESPN, Disney's in the master. So they got to make them happy. How are they going to do that? That's what me and you, Conrad, don't really, and others, we don't really know what will check the boxes for the ESPN bosses. That is something that I think that will be revealed more and more and more as more and more ESPN programming is done.
WrestleOps has reported, since you and I have been recording this morning, that John Cena was originally scheduled to defeat Brock Lesnar at Wrestlepalooza as of the morning of the show. But that changed.
Why?
My name is Paul Heyman. I mean, have you ever met a guy who's more successful at selling his case and pleading his case than Paul Heyman? I mean, I don't know this to be true, but I'd be willing to bet it was Paul Heyman who got the year of Vince McMahon and got that finish changed at WrestleMania 30. I could be wrong, but I mean, time and time again. And by the way, I'm not saying this to be critical of Paul. He's the GOAT manager. He's one of my favorite, if not the favorite wrestling mind that I've ever come across. I just love seeing the way that guy thinks and learning from him. And if it winds up being the story you laid out, I think fans will get behind it. But I don't know why else they would have changed it if it wasn't Paul Heyman. It's hard for me to imagine that Brock Lesnar's in there negotiating.
Oh no, but that's when my client, his client ain't gonna do. Brock doesn't need their money. Don't need not a one of them. Does he need to please? The only thing Brock.
Well, neither does John Cena either. Respectfully,
I'm with you. I'm with you. Therein lies.
I just ask myself, who cares more about wins and losses? And respectfully, I don't think the answer is John Cena.
No.
Hey, we'll touch one more touch point from that show, and then I want to move on. We got a lot more to talk about. We really do have a fun show, including some of Jeff's all-time favorite opponents. Stay tuned for that. But first, Stephanie going into the Hall of Fame. They didn't announce it at the Royal Rumble. In fact, they've done a lot of times. They start making these announcements in January. They announced it in September the year prior. We're actually closer to this year's WrestleMania than we are next year's WrestleMania, and we've already made the announcement. I know part of that is because of the audience that we had, and it was on ESPN, and we want some headlines coming out of this. And we even saw the female champion change. So I think that's probably the direction we're headed, but I wanted to ask you, what did you think of the optics of that? It feels, I don't know, strategic. Am I wrong?
What we know for absolute sure is that we know nothing.
That's right.
The old quote from Socrates. The more and more that we think we know, the more and more I have an understanding. We have no idea. But man, oh man. And I don't know if optics, I hear where you're going, optics, the right word. What's the Piper line? It has created way more questions than answers, because announcing that 4 months premature, one thing is for certain, it's strategic about something. We just don't know. I mean, like her nephew Declan, it prompted him.
I saw that on social media saying, put Shane McMahon in the Hall of Fame.
Of course it's going to prompt him. So my assumption is Shane will be announced between now and January. I mean,
come on.
Don't you think?
Zero chance. Let's make a Waffle House bet. I'd put that near zero.
Near zero?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're going to put Stephanie in and not Shane.
Correct.
But you think I still think it's going to be the same. Well,
not a chance.
Not a chance.
No, less than zero.
So now we're
in the negative numbers now.
Silva, I almost see the graphic. It's going to be.
Don't you make that the fucking thumbnail for this podcast. Instead,
SaveWithConrad.com. My name's Daryl. Came from Massachusetts and I moved to Wisconsin. And there's a lot of people that might be asking, why go with Conrad? Why go with Supreme Lending? And let me tell you something, brother. I think about the credentials, the tag team partner that I'd be working with. First of all, we got the Podfather himself, Conrad. How can you go wrong with that? And then also go on to SaveWithEric.com, which, you know, who else could have kicked Vince's ass for 83 consecutive weeks? You can't beat that duo right there. But they did bring a secret weapon, and I didn't realize this because this was not advertised. I worked closely with Larry the Axe Thompson. And let me tell you, with all the stress with moving across the country with a large family that I have, it was reassuring to know that I had the enforcer at my back, handling questions from the other side of sellers, the other side with trying to find the right prices. He took care of all that. All I had to do was keep my eye on the prize and make it there to Wisconsin. They were absolutely fantastic. They checked in on me, especially Francis, very patient with me. I don't go through this process all the time, so I trusted the experts. I was able to call them. They called me if they had questions, and it felt like it was a personal arrangement. There was even a point in which, from the seller side, they wanted something else that wasn't part of the norm. Francis straight up told me, hey, we're loyal to you. We'll do whatever you want to do, and we'll make sure that you guys are taken care of. They came through. I made it to the dream. I'm the champion of my own destiny here. They were able to help pave the way for me and my family. I couldn't be more happy with the results. I went from having less than an acre to now 20 acres worth of land. They made that dream a reality. I'm Daryl, and I'm living in Friendship, Wisconsin, in my dream home, thanks to SaveWithConrad.com.
NWA number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.